Okay, welcome. I hope you are all well and that you are continuing your practice. Over the weekend, my wife and we bought a new car, and I go to the dealership, and we did it through CarMax. I went there Friday, and you never know with these things. I tried doing as much as I could online, over the phone, right? Credit check, appraisal, yada, 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 yada. And we get there and they're like, great, everything's taken care of. And you just have to come in, sign some papers, retransfer the old car, and it'll take 30 minutes. And so I grab my backpack, and I go, and I'm like, just in case, I'm going to throw in a book. Just going to throw in a book just in case, never know. And so I throw in a book, and we get there, and I get to the front desk, and she goes, great, you have your keys. Yeah, here are my keys to the old car. Everything's out. Good. Okay, I'll be right out. I sit down. 7 minutes later, somebody comes out. I'm like, wow, it's going amazing, right? Like, I can't believe this. I'm almost like, I never do reviews online, but I'm like, I would consider putting something online for this. This is like quite amazing service. And so the lady comes out, signs everything, right? And then somebody else comes out like 5 minutes later. There was some internal error that occurred, and nothing went through. Like, I'm like, I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean nothing? Like, we have to reappraise the car, and we have to do a credit. I'm like, the credit check was just done yesterday over, like, it's the same, nothing changed in like 12 hours. I know, but it's not being processed correctly and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm going to pull out my book. I'm going to be like, how long do you think this is going to take? Well, it shouldn't take that long, but everything needs to be redone. So we're going to bring the car back. We're going to appraise it because we were doing a trade-in. And so they were just appraising the car that we were trading in, and then doing a credit check. And so I sit back and I start reading my book. And the book that I chose to read is it's called Pointers from Nisargadatta Maharaj by Ramesh S. Balsekar. We've done some of Nisargadatta Maharaj's stuff prior with I Am That, so that might kind of ring a bell. But this is actually somebody who has spent a lot of time with him, and also has kind of interpreted the language from his teachings, based on his own experience, knowledge, etc., and has made it in a way, let's say, a little bit more understandable, universal. And he spent, Nisargadatta essentially would sit in this room, and he would teach. And it was funny because it was like he could teach to as many as one person in the room, and sometimes the room was so packed that there was no standing room, standing room only sort of thing. And I'm always looking for ways to describe in language, in the English language, right? Because I primarily speak English. In this English language that is a manifested form of energy expression, that, even in use of the language, there's some limitations in the words that we know, or that we use. For instance, if I say love, I can have any sort of different meaning, right? Am I talking to a child? Am I talking to a plant? Am I talking to a food? Am I talking to my wife? Et cetera, et cetera. So a word can have many different. So if you hear the word, or even a sentence, depends on the context, or et cetera, et cetera. So there's always, I'm always looking for ways of using the English language to express awareness and consciousness, or what awareness is. Okay. And I've got to say, I've got to say, I've done a lot of reading, I've done a lot of studying. I've even tried publishing my own kids' books on awareness and consciousness. This might be the best way that I've found. Right. And so I'm super excited to share it with you. And I read this, right, in the CarMax lobby as I was trading, which is just, there's some cynicism in all this, right? As they're like, sorry, your everything that you did yesterday didn't transfer over, it didn't work. We got to repeat the whole process over again. And I'm going, gee, thanks. So just so you know a little bit about myself, I like this so much that I would even consider like making a huge poster of it and putting it in my wall so I can like read it over and over and over and over and over and over again. And if we did have like, if Neuralink came in and was like, we can implant a chip into your brain that can give you this fundamental understanding, I'd be like, sweet. I would consider it. No, I'm just kidding. But it's really good. And so I want to share that with you. And also, right, so there's a lot of language, but there's also a like a practice. And you'll see how amazingly similar our practice is to the practice that is recommended. And this is just, to me, this is like, we've been hitting a home run every single day that we come together to do this practice. And that's been really great. So I want to share that with you. And it's from this book, Pointers from Nisargadatta Maharaj. And anything that says, the chapter is actually awareness and consciousness. That's the chapter title. Okay. Which is pretty awesome. Ramesh would spend a lot of time with Nisargadatta. And so this is actually from some of the readings. One morning when I had paid my respects to Maharaj and sat down, I found that there were only two other persons present. Maharaj suddenly said, "What is the difference between awareness and consciousness, if any?" I mean, from my perspective, right? Wow, this struck me. All right, here we go. When something like this happens, one does not really know whether he expects an answer or whether he is merely thinking aloud. I kind of love that, right? Like, are you, you're sitting in the audience, you're like, do you want me to try to answer that? Or are you asking the question that you're going to answer? Or is this a question that you're ruminating in your own mind? Right? One hesitates to answer for fear of breaking the flow of his thoughts, but then he might also say, "Why don't you answer? Have you been wasting my time listening to the talks all these days?" This morning, however, he carried on without waiting for an answer. Right? So you can kind of like thinking about this is in the middle of India. People would go visit this guy, Nisargadatta Maharaj. He observed that awareness is of the absolute and therefore beyond the three gunas, whereas consciousness is something fed by and limited by the food body. When the food body is destroyed, consciousness also disappears. Mind you, no one dies. The body, made of the 5 elements, mingles with the elements when it is lifeless, and consciousness, which is subject to the 3 gunas, becomes free of the gunas. Awareness is the primordial original state prior to the concept of space-time, needing no cause, no support. It simply is. However, the moment the concept of consciousness arises on this original state of unicity, the sense I am arises, causing a condition of duality. Consciousness is with a form, a reflection of awareness against the surface of matter. One cannot think of consciousness apart from awareness. There cannot be a reflection of the sun without the sun, but there can be awareness without consciousness. In deep sleep, for instance, there is no consciousness. It is resting. But awareness is certainly there because on waking, one is aware of having slept, but only on waking. Maharaj never allows us to forget that it is consciousness alone which is our constant companion, and that it is the continuous attention to one's stream of consciousness that takes one onto awareness, the basic existence, that which is life, love, joy. According to Maharaj, the very consciousness of being conscious is already a movement toward awareness. The mind, by its very nature, is outgoing, always tending to seek the source of things within the things themselves. When it is directed towards the source within, it is almost like the beginning of a new life. Awareness replaces consciousness. The I am, which is a thought in consciousness, ceases. In awareness, there is no thought. Awareness is the source of consciousness. Maharaj suggests that it is an excellent spiritual exercise to sit quietly and watch what comes to the surface of the mind. What we call thoughts are like ripples on the surface of water. Thoughts always lead to identification or condemnation. They are products of preconceived notions and stand in the way of real understanding. Just as water is serene when free of ripples, so is the mind serene when free of thoughts, when it is passive and fully receptive. In the mirror of your mind, says Maharaj, all kinds of pictures will appear, stay for a while, and disappear. Silently watch them come and go. Be alert, but not attracted or repelled. It is important not to be involved. This attitude of silent witnessing will have the effect gradually of driving away all useless thoughts like unwanted guests that are ignored. By being thus within yourself, that is, in the I amness, by watching the flow of mind without interfering or judgment, as a dispassionate witness, the deep unknown will be encouraged to come to the surface of consciousness and release its unused energy to enable you to understand the mystery of the origin of life. Whoa. So awareness is the primordial original state prior to the concept of space and time, no needing any cause. So there's this that consciousness is like the reflection of the sun in a drop of water. That consciousness needs awareness for consciousness to be reflected on to appear, but awareness doesn't need consciousness. So the awareness is the primordial state from which consciousness emerges, but it's not separate, right? It's all one. It's sort of like all one. It's all like all one energy form. Okay. The way that I've described it in the book is like you could hold a piece of ice, but if it changes form and it melts, it becomes water. But the water molecule is not different in the ice or the water. It's still H2O, so it's the same. Okay. So awareness is like, it's like the substance. It's like the primordial substance from which consciousness emerges, that we can see consciousness because awareness is there. So we can be conscious because awareness is there. All right. It simply is. And that's the point of resting your attention, right? Resting, the sense of in our practice, resting our attention back. Where do we rest it back to? Pure awareness, the unmanifest. Okay. The moment the concept of consciousness arises, this sense of I am appears, right? So there is this sense of I am, this beingness, right? I am here. I am present, right? There's this I amness that appears. One cannot think of consciousness apart from awareness. So you can't, it's not, they're not different. They're not distinct. You can't separate them. But there can be awareness without consciousness. Okay. He uses the example of sleep. And this then starts to get, so now you can see, right, where the practice is. Maharaj never allows us to forget that it is consciousness alone which is our constant companion, and that it is the continuous attention to one's stream of consciousness that takes one onto awareness. Okay, so if we want to, in essence, right, the way that I read this is if we want to reside in awareness, well, some people have that ability just almost instantaneously, but some people use the stream of consciousness to go back to source, essentially, to go back to this primordial state by seeing the stream of consciousness. Okay. The continuous attention to one stream of consciousness that takes one onto awareness, the basic existence. And then there's a quality here that's ascribed to this awareness. And what's that quality? Life, love, joy. Right? And I believe it's in like Sanskrit, there's like Sat Chit and Ananda. There's like a bliss. According to Maharaj, the very consciousness of being conscious is already a movement towards awareness. So being conscious is already a movement towards this primordial state of life, love, and joy. The mind by its very nature is outgoing. We know that, right? It goes external, right? There's this external, the attention goes outwards. We very rarely, except if you're in this class, we very rarely turn it inwards, right? So the mind is naturally external, outgoing, always tending to seek. When it is directed towards the source within, it is almost like the beginning of a new life. So directed towards the source. And those are, we've used different language to describe this, or, turn the searchlights back onto you. Pay attention to yourself, rest your attention, right? When we ask the question, even, am I aware? Right? What happens in that space of answering that question? There's an inward perception that occurs, right? Am I aware? We stop, we pause, there's a space, and what's the answer? I am. Right? But how did you know that? You know that absolutely you're aware, but how did you figure that out? Well, there's an interoception that's occurring, and you're assessing your own awareness. Okay. Awareness replaces consciousness. The I am, which is thought in consciousness, ceases. In awareness, there is no thought. Awareness is the source of consciousness. It is an excellent spiritual practice to sit quietly and watch what comes to the surface of the mind. That's it. Like, hello, right? Just sit quietly. Watch what comes to the surface of the mind, right? Watch what's arising, right? We've had many different examples of this. Like we're going to, we watch clouds, right? The thoughts or emotions or feelings, beliefs are like clouds passing in the sky, right? Waves in the ocean, okay? Leaves traveling down a stream. Okay, there's many different kind of metaphors that can be used for this, right? But that's it. An excellent spiritual exercise is to sit quietly and watch what comes to the surface of the mind. That's mindfulness. That's what we've been doing for 5.5 years together. All right. What we call thoughts are like ripples on the surface of the water, ripples, waves, whatever you want to call them, right? Things that disrupt the water, ripples, right? Well, if the water is cloudy, right? Sometimes they describe it, those sorry if you love the snowflake bulb, bulbs or whatever they are with snowflakes in them. You shake them up and it gets all cloudy and you can't see. It looks like all the snowflakes are flying. Well, the analogy is that when you shake it, that's the mind with thoughts and emotions and sensations, and you can't see clearly. You allow the snowflakes, and then all of a sudden you see it, right? A turbulent flow is causing the dirt to come up. Quiet the flow. Okay, so he says ripples. I've used waves, right? You can be at the surface or you can drop down below. The ocean can be pacified, right? If there's no waves, then you can see 100 feet down. Oh my goodness, I'm seeing the clear surface, right? As opposed to if there are ripples, it's hard. You're seeing reflections and this, and it's like, gee, what am I looking at? I see a building reflected and all these lights. Okay. In the mirror of the mind, says Maharaj, all kinds of pictures will appear, stay for a while, and then disappear, right? We've also done this practice, right? Notice a thought. That's the image of the mind, right? Notice a thought. It coming in, pop, there it is. And then if we don't pay attention to it, right? If we just let it be without giving it energy, without identifying with it, what happens? Just like a cloud, right? It just goes poof, gone. Next. What's the next one? Oh, yeah. Well, that's the nature of the mind. Here's poof. Right? And all we're doing is we are sitting quietly and watch what comes to the surface of the mind. Silently watch them come and go. Now, this is easier said than done, but this is the practice of mindfulness. Okay. Be alert. Alert. What's the definition from John Kabat-Zinn? Right? Pay attention on purpose. Right? What's the word that I use? Find a comfortable posture where you will be alert yet relaxed. We want to be alert, right? We don't want to be tired. I don't know what I'm doing. There's an alertness here to it. Body, mind, spirit, alertness. But not attracted or repelled. Non-judgmental. You're not attracted to it. Oh my goodness, look how good I am. I'm doing it so well. I'm sitting, I'm so peaceful. I'm the best meditator in the world. Right? Or, oh my goodness, look at my thoughts. This sucks. I'm just going to go eat my chips and candy. Which I did last night. No. All right. It is important not to be involved. How much do we love to be involved in our mind? Right? Oh, that was a really good thought. I'm such a wise person, right? That was such a okay. Or I can't believe I had that thought. Oh my God, that's like the worst thought I could possibly have. How could I ever imagine, I don't hurt people. How could I ever imagine hurting people? Or, the thought appeared of me stealing something from the shop. Like, right? Not to be involved. So silently watch them come and go. Be alert, but not attracted or repelled. Don't be involved in those thoughts. Let them be. Let them be. Let them come and go. Come and go, right? What comes to the surface of the mind, come and go. This attitude of silent witnessing, witness, right? We are the ultimate witness of what's arising. As we stop to pay attention to everything and we stop giving it so much energy and identifying with it, and we simply notice and witness and allow, poof, it doesn't stick. That stickiness, that attachment starts to lessen. The attitude of silent witnessing will have the effect gradually, key, right? Gradually, of driving away all useless thoughts like unwanted guests that are ignored. By being thus within yourself, that is, in the I amness, by watching the flow of mind without interfering or judging, as a dispassionate witness, the deep unknown will be encouraged to come to the surface of consciousness and release its unused energies to enable you to understand the mystery of the origin of life. That's a fairly powerful statement. Okay. But this has been experienced over and over and over and over and over and over and over again by people. All right. There's this, it's not a forced upbringing of this origin of life. It's as we do these practices, there's a natural arising of this true nature. Why? Because, right, the ripples that are clouding the water start to settle. And then clarity emerges. Okay. That is 1.5 pages. All right. And so you can see how related that is to the practice of mindfulness. Right. And how there can be with the practice, gradual as it may be, this unearthing of our true nature, pure awareness, prior to consciousness, prior to the I am, even prior to this manifestation of I amness. All right, which is then pure awareness. But not separating the two, not being like, oh, that's something different. No, it's almost like a like the electromagnetic spectrum of energy, right? Purple is not a different thing than red. It's just a different frequency that I could tune it to, and all of a sudden purple becomes red. Okay. So what I like about that is that it really gets to the question of awareness and consciousness. And it really gets to what's a practice that I can do? And there it is, right? There's always this sort of like search. What can I do, right? What's like the next spiritual retreat I can go on, or what's the next this or the next that and the next this or the next that. And I've got to say, sometimes it's sort of like, that's good. You know, the search is good, but we can also throw that all away and just do this. It's right there, right? In your own home, bedroom, kitchen, closet, wherever you might be doing your practice. If you have to get away from your kids, I'm in my closet. It's my only. Okay. So I hope you see why I brought that today and also how similar it is to the practice of mindfulness that we have been doing, and how, as neuroscience and all these fMRI studies and EEG studies show all these different brainwave changes with meditation and mindfulness, and decreased pain and increased self-awareness, and et cetera, that it can be a very powerful practice of also understanding who we are and being able to rest in awareness, being able to allow awareness to be present, allowing those ripples in the mind to quiet, so that we can be in that state of, life, love, joy, which again is an emergence. It's not a force. It's not like, oh, I'm going to go love today. It's like, no, that arises. That just comes. The sense of joy is like it's like an upswell, like an upspring, little burbling spring. Okay. And you can see why the practice doesn't have to be so complex, convoluted, right? It's simple, but it's not easy. And it's not as, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do this. It's like, right? That's still up here on the ripples. That's still here on the waves, right? It's sort of like, oh, I'm trying to stay afloat on these ripples. I need this ship over here. I need this, buoy over here. I need this life jacket over here. And that's fine, right? That's good. But ultimately, what we want to try to do is quiet those ripples so that the waves. All right, so that's going to be our practice. Okay, so let's start by finding a comfortable posture. A posture you will feel relaxed yet alert. Closing your eyes if you feel comfortable closing your eyes. If not, having a soft downward gaze as you're gazing off on the horizon. And taking 2 or 3 deep breaths. And with each inhale, bringing yourself ever so slightly closer to the present moment, allowing the present moment to be witnessed just as it is right now. And with each exhale, releasing any tension that you may feel in your body, even if it's just the intention of releasing the tension. And then breathing regularly. And for this practice, as you sit here quietly, simply allowing yourself to watch what comes to the surface of the mind. That's it. Just simply watch what comes to the surface of the mind. Be alert, but not attracted or repelled by any thoughts, sensations, or emotions that come. Being a pure, silent witness. Witnessing what comes to the surface of the mind in this moment and in every moment. With no attachment, no judgment, no interference. Simply being and witnessing this moment. That the thoughts and sensations and emotions are like ripples on the surface of a water. Simply noticing those ripples, without placing too much energy on them. Witnessing them. Watching the natural flow of the mind as a witness. Let's see what happens. And if you notice your mind has been caught up with the ripples, simply seeing if you can be the witness. Notice your thoughts, emotions, sensations, beliefs. Can you watch them appear in the mind? And ask yourself, who is watching? Who or what is the witness? Who or what is witnessing? And as we sit quietly, watching what comes to the surface of the mind, notice what happens as the pure witness, the silent witness, watching the mind without judging, on purpose, with alertness. Can we open the space and encourage the deep unknown to come to the surface of consciousness and release its unused energies to enable you to understand the mystery of the origin of life. And with that, taking 2 or 3 deep breaths. Allowing yourself to feel your body, feel your feet on the floor or whatever surface they're on, your hands in your lap, your thighs making contact with your chair. And just sending love and gratitude to yourself for doing this practice today. Opening your eyes if your eyes were closed. Reorienting yourself to your room and surroundings. Stretching and moving if you need to stretch. And just taking a moment to reflect on your practice.